Greetings and salutations, my operators, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney. I don't remember what the second game's called, but this is still case one. After what? 3-month hiatus? Okay. So, I believe the story beats are that the criminal from the first game, or the first case of the first game, was murdered before she was to be shipped off to Shanghai. And we're playing as what you call it, Susato? We're playing as a cross-dressing Susato because women are not allowed in the courtroom as lawyers. They're barely tolerated as witnesses. Unless you're foreign, apparently. What else? We were told that somebody took a picture of when the incident happened, which was like from an impossible angle because it was through a wall. We have evidence that, or we have reached a conclusion that she was poisoned using a new type of poison again. And now we're cross-examining the photographer who took the picture, who also interviewed the professor, our father, hours prior. The camera never lies. The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screens, so there were plenty of gaps I could see through inside. I could see inside through. Oh. The English woman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the English woman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back. My smoldering journal spirit burst into flames. Quick as a flash, I whipped out my camera, ready to click. I pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lenses through for the perfect shot. Oh, I still can't read apparently. That's not great, is it? Read screens, you say? Right. You can see them clearly enough through in that great shot I snapped. Really I gotta take in the sentence before I start speaking it. Also, I have something stuck in my teeth. The hut walls were just screens made of coarsely woven reeds. Yes, it allows the breeze to pass through and bring some relief from the summer heat. And it was a breeze for me to poke my camera through and see the whole thing hotting up. Ignoring for the time being the appalling invasion of privacy involved, did you witness everything that happened from the moment the defendant entered the hut? Oh yes, I saw it. I saw the whole thing from start to finish. And you say that you took the photographs through a gap in one of the screens? Luckily for me, they were pretty shoddily woven. I pulled the reeds apart and thrust the lens of my camera through the gap. Would I get away with it? Or would I be seen? It was a gamble of a lifetime. The tenacity of purpose that's considered admirable in a journalist, I suppose. Run a risk one day, run a scoop the next. That's many memoism in a nutshell. Alas, it would appear we have a genuine witness to this wicked crime. The evidence and testimony are extremely compelling. I believe we may be close to a verdict.
No. Wonderful news, Your Excellency! Wonderful!
Nevertheless, it cannot be denied that this testimony begs one very large question.
What question?
Exclusive news. A startling photograph. All the markings of an exceptional story for a reporter. Why then was the story never published?
Oh, that's right.
Oh wait, no, I gave him like a very timid voice, didn't I?
It seems clear to me that there are circumstances at play here that are yet to be understood. Ha! More pathetic excuses!
Very well then, counsel. Proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, Your Excellency. There's more to this reporter than meets the eye. He's keeping something about this case very close to his chest.
Cross-examination. The camera never lies.
The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screens, so there were plenty of gaps I could see inside through. Hold it! What made you want to see what was happening inside the beach hut in the first place? Call it journal instinct. Can you think of a better reason? Oh, I don't know. Perhaps because, as well as being a proven criminal, the person inside was a young woman. Ah, I see where you're going with this. Brace yourselves, people. He's paying the journal as a voyeur. It's hardly slander, sir. You had a camera and you were taking pictures without the woman's knowledge. And nope, you got it all wrong, little student boy. Sorry? To my mind, all that was inside that hut was a scoop. Nothing more, nothing less. Scoops, no gender. Man or woman is all news. That's not even many memorism. It's basic journalism. If only the courtroom was as indiscriminate. Right. So, if that's all buttoned up, can we move on?
Tell the court then, witness. What sight befell your eyes when you looked inside the hut?
A sight that vindicated my journal instinct, that's what. When I pulled back the reeds, I could see it as clear as day. The Englishwoman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her. Hold it! So you actually saw Membami-san entering the hut? Yep, and she was raging like my journal spirit. And the argument you mentioned, what was that about exactly? You stole it. I didn't steal it. That kind of thing. Talking about the poison, I suppose. The student girl walked right up to the Englishwoman and really started laying into her. I mean, if she laid into her anymore, there would have been eggs. The man should have been an author. His descriptive talents are wasted on journalism. But the student's rantings fell on deaf ears, like a Japanese person listening to English for the first time. He really ought to work on his similes first, though, to be honest. Anyway, the point is, that woman in the dock was mildly angry. And her temper finally got the better of her, it seems. Dear me. Which was the climactic moment that I caught on film. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishwoman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back. Hold it! Do you swear for this court that you actually saw the precise moment when the stabbing took place?
the precise moment, I didn't see just that. I saw the whole hellish scene play out, from start to finish. I have here a simple plan of the beach hut. Perhaps you could use it to explain to the court exactly what you witnessed. Interesting. Why is he pausing? Right you are! It's all here in my memo pad. Memo pad. Wow, that's a tongue twister. When I first peered into the hut, I'm sure that the Englishwoman was on this stool in the back of the hut here. Yes, the accused's own testimony confirmed that. She just sat at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly, is what I have noted down. It's my turn to testify now. Try not to interrupt. Then, the next moment, as I was watching, the evil student girl entered the hut. After a while, the pair of them ended up in the middle of the hut, arguing fiercely. The Englishwoman went for the student, but the girl dodged out of the way. Interesting. And in a flash, plunged the knife into her adversary's back as the two passed each other. What you describe is a grim crime indeed. What you describe as self-defense sound like. Never sugarcoat the truth. That's what many memoism says. The beach hut plan has been entered into court record. By the way, Many Memo-san, whilst you were watching that terrible scene unfold before your eyes through the gap in the screen, did it not occur to you to try to prevent the tragedy, rather than capture it on film? Journals have to be observers. We can't get involved. That's a raison d'etre. So you didn't converse with Miss Beretta at all? Obviously not. An observer always remains on the outside, looking in. And that's something to be proud of, is it? Jackson, if I may. Yes, Professor. I think the witness's last expertly phrased statement should perhaps be added to his former testimony. Father, what are you... I will grant the defense's request. Many Memo-san, you will supplement your formal testimony with the aforementioned statement. Well, nihilism is the foundation of memoism, but I'll gladly prove that my words aren't meaningless. Okay, weird. I never once set foot in the hut, nor spoke with the Englishwoman. I was there only as an observer. Hold it! Really? You didn't set foot inside the hut at all? Are you quite sure about that? I think you might have the wrong impression of me. We're talking about a murder scene here. My nerves were stretched to the breaking point already. Oh, I see. You're scared? Maybe I did have the wrong impression of you, yes. It was all I could do to stifle a scream and hold my hands steady enough to snap the shot. You really should have summoned help before slinging of your camera. Memoism and humanism don't always agree. And most of the time in those instances, many memoism comes out on top. As a sculptor of stories, sometimes I have to be cruel for my art. Yes, that's spot on. Surely he's making all this up. He claims to have spied on the whole affair from start to finish. If true, his testimony is devastating. But... that's... Oh, wait, that's right. I forgot. Susawa-san gets her name changed to Ritaro. I really did not pay attention to that. But it does seem as though he's holding something back, doesn't it?
If that's how you feel, I suggest you trust your instincts and press him on everything he said. As you've no doubt seen done many times before in your role as judicial assistant. Yes, I have. I've seen witnesses like this pressed often. I know exactly what to do.
Wait, did it get added to the end of this? Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishwoman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back.
Hold it!
Oh no, that's the one I pressed right. Alright, let's just fast forward this. Whoopsie. I'm gonna have a snack in the meantime. Oh, I'm in trouble. I hope that wasn't double audio. I just realized my desktop was recording. My smoldering journal spirit burst into flames. Quick as a flash, I whipped up my camera, ready to click.
Hold it!
The court is fully aware of your desire to capture the incident on film, I'm sure. But why then did you choose to post a photograph anonymously to the police?
I'm afraid I don't understand a word that's coming out of your mouth.
I'm asking why, as a journalist, you decided not to make a story of the incident.
Think of me as a sculptor who makes art out of the sordid private details of other people's lives. But I never discuss my own personal life on principle. I mean, that's basic minimism.
It's not something to boast about.
No doubt your burning desire to see the truth exposed and justice done was what motivated you.
That's it. That's brilliant. My burning desire to see something or other exposed. Okay, that's...
There has to be a good reason why he didn't think to write an article about what he saw, though.
By your own admission, you're out to the hut. How then did you manage to take the photograph? Ah, yes, that. I'm glad you asked. I pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lenses through for the perfect shot.
Hold it!
But the two women inside didn't notice.
Ah, obviously not. If they had, where would I be right now? In jail, that's where.
What you think would make you reflect on what you were doing?
No, a journalist's job is to collect little snippets of life as unobtrusively as possible. Leave nothing but footprints. Take nothing but photos. Yes, that's spot on.
Did he just make that up?
The point is, the witness risked life and limb to obtain this photograph. And this photograph reveals the whole truth. There is nothing more to be said. I never once set foot in the hut, nor spoke with the Englishwoman. I was there only as an observer. Oh yeah, I got sent to the back. those footprints I see? Probably not.
Ah, yes. This must be the victim's blood. Oh dear. Blood is never a pretty sight, is it? I'm having to fight the urge to run it under a hot tap and get it clean. You've always been fastidious about cleanliness, haven't you? I think this is something else, Father. The label appears to be written in a foreign language that I don't know. It's German. So your knowledge of English is going to be of little help here, I'm afraid. Couldn't you have just written medicine on it in Japanese? Then we'd all be able to read it. German is the international language of medicine, my dear. But yes, I can certainly see the merit in labeling the bottle in Japanese. Though I'm not sure medicine would be entirely appropriate.
I never once set foot in the hut, nor spoke with the English woman. I was only there as an observer. Do I present the pen? Because it has his emblem on it.
Well, we know for certain that this emblem isn't that of Yume University. The police really ought to have spotted that. They're obviously convinced that of Ray's guilt from the outset.
What do I present here? I'm gonna bank on the pen.
Objection!
Hey, got it.
Minimamo-san, until now, I've had a firm belief that newspapers are in the business of uncovering and publishing the truth.
You're spot on there. The press doesn't lie, which is why I'm proud to wear the emblem of the Show You News on my arm. In a way, that's more many-memoism.
Sadly, though, it seems that journalists who write for those papers don't always share the same passion for the truth.
What? What are you suggesting with those recriminatory words, Counsel?
Minimamo-san, do you recognize this fountain pen?
Ah,
This pen was found at the scene of Miss Brett's death. In fact, the murdered victim was gripping it in her hand as she died.
what are you?
If you look at the barrel of this pen, you'll notice that its owner's initials are engraved there. R.M.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Counsel. The initials of the accused, Ray Membami.
Is there a coincidence, I wonder? That your initials are also R.M.?
No!
Write in mini memo. RM. That's horse dung. Can't you see? One of the central tenets of many memoism is being a pencil user. And yet, as the court will clearly be able to see on your right hand, there's a very obvious blue ink stain. It would appear that you must have rather carelessly left it somewhere recently. Your favorite fountain pen, that is. Horsey, horse dung! Minnie Mamosan, is it not the case that before she died, you met with Giselle Brett in the beach hut?
Objection! Why should we listen to this absurd nonsense? It's nothing but another excuse.
Exactly! Show You News will stand behind me all the way. I deny everything. There must be as many people with the initials RM as there are stars in the night sky. The defense has neither the time nor the inclination to count every star in the sky. And there's no need, anyway, because this pen has more to tell. Yes, there's another clue. A clue that undeniably proves who its owner really is. In that case, counsel, the defense will now show the court where this alleged clue lies. Of course, Your Excellency. The clue in this fountain pen that clearly reveals its owner's identity is...
Got it!
As well as the initials, there is also an emblem on this fountain pen. An emblem that you will of course recognize. Memi Memo-san. Goodness me! It's the emblem of the Show You News! In other words, the owner of this pen is an employee of the Show You News, whose initials are RM. Suddenly the stars in the night sky don't seem so numerous, do they? Well, Meni Memo-san, how do you respond?
No!
Order! Order! Explain yourself, witness! Ha 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 ha! So, this is how the mighty Supreme Court works, is it? Using coercive tactics to have well-meaning citizens reveal harmless secrets. I've used nothing but honest tactics. Alright then, fine. I won't try to hide it anymore. Yes, not long before that grim tragedy unfolded. I Show You News reporter, on behalf of the public, conducted an interview with the Englishwoman. An interview?
You never mentioned this before!
When exactly was this? As I said, it was before that evil little student girl showed her face in that. It couldn't have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes. That's all. It was just a brief exchange. But it came to nothing. And as we memoists say, the people don't pay their dues for unworthy news. However insignificant you deem it to be, this court cannot overlook the meeting between yourself and the victim. You will testify now under an oath about the precise nature of this meeting and what transpired. Got it? Yes, alright. But on one condition.
Condition?
In all good conscience, I couldn't speak out alone about this. You need to call back the other witness. Soseki Natsume-san. Soseki-san? Oh yes, according to my notes here, that man has a secret of his own. And brace yourselves, because it's not a harmless one. It's big. What? What? Many memoism states that one man's secret is every other man's front page story. Very well. I will grant the witness's request in this instance. Officer, summon the earlier witness back to the stand.
Sasaki-san, hiding something?
Witness testimony. What is the secrets?
I asked the Englishwoman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question. But he didn't say anything about that in his testimony, which is why many memoism demands I reveal it now.
You mean to say the victim?
The victim regained consciousness?
Well,
And when she did, you decided to ask her a question?
that's, true, yes.
He did, and that's not all. The woman gave him a very definite answer. An answer that incriminates the accused.
This is preposterous! Why am I only hearing about this now? Why didn't you mention this before, you yokel hack?
It wasn't even a conversation. Yes, I did pose the withering English rose a question. I don't deny it. But she could no longer speak. She was barely conscious, even. Counsel for the defense, I expect a thorough cross-examination to be conducted here. This court must and will know the truth.
Yes, absolutely, Your Excellency. The reporter is claiming that Miss Brett implicated Ray somehow. What on earth could have happened in that hut?
The witnesses. Goddamn, Slava went in the throat.
The witness's secrets.
I asked the Englishwoman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss.
Hold it!
You asked her for an interview, you say?
Well, of course I did. I wanted to ask her about the incident she was involved in at the end of last year.
About the case in which Dr. John H. Wilson lost his life?
That's not the way I phrased it. Many memoism calls for straight talking. Why did you murder Dr. Wilson, is how I put it to her.
Yes, that sort of talking is as straight as a ruler.
Ask every question as if you're asking for a menu in a restaurant, I say. It's the best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that.
And how did Miss Brett answer?
With one simple phrase. Mystery is a woman's charm. Whew! That told me, so I waltzed right out there.
Really? Something about that doesn't quite seem to fit together.
Leave every room as if you're waltzing into a dance hall, I say. It's the best way. What? A veteran at the paper taught me that.
How do you mean?
Does it mean like walk with dignity? Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running.
Hold it!
That was very persistent of you, considering that Miss Brett had just turned you away.
Persistence wins the prize. Many memoists will tell you that. Let them think you've left. Then, just when they lower their guard, that's when you swoop in for the scoop.
And the fruits of your labor are all too apparent in this photograph. Though I'm sure the young yokel student would rather you not be reminded of this damning evidence.
Actually, it's thanks to that photograph that we managed to identify this witness.
And now that you found me, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I've got nothing to hide.
I'm sure.
Please, do go ahead, witness. The court is eager to hear what you have to say.
Try to stop me. There's a story to tell here, and I'm going to tell it. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help.
Hold it!
And Sosaki-san remained behind the hut.
That's right, yep. Our author friend here was a blabbering wreck, shaking all over from his head to his toes, mustache twitching, eyes bulging.
What do you expect? You don't know the terrifying troubles that taunted me whilst traveling abroad. Back behind baleful bars. They'll be coming for me, surely. That's all I could think. I felt as though I were grasping for air, drowning in a sea of cold sweat. Poor Sosaki-san. His experiences in London have scarred him deeply. As the world seemed to close in around me, I quietly recited a prayer to Amida Buddha. Eternal, endless, empty, eternity. The end is coming for me, surely.
No sutras are to resound in my courtroom, please. And now, we come to the crucial part. That's when it happened. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question.
Hold it!
What question? What exactly did he say?
Well now, you should hear from the horse's mouth, I think. Don't you, Mr. Writer Man?
Oh!
Out with it, you yokel hack! What did you say to her? What did you say to the dying Englishwoman?
Well, in truth, I've been catching crabs at the water's edge, and building castles in the sand, you see. I'm gonna move my mic.
Well, the seaside is a place to be at leisure. Why is that happening? I suppose, even for a grown man.
But then, all of a sudden, from that little beach hut, a young girl's panic-stricken cries for help pierced the air. Hey! I ran up the beach to see what was happening, to find the defendant leaning over the collapsed victim. As soon as Inspector Hosonaga saw Miss Brett on the ground, he sprinted off to get help. And then, just a moment later, I heard a faint moan. A moan from the dead Englishwoman. I nearly jumped out of my skin! But what did you ask her, Sosaki-san? I asked her, who did this to you?
Don't protract this any longer. How did the woman respond?
She didn't. She said nothing in response. But...
When in the stand, you will answer the question asked of you unambiguously. Now, without evasion or... reticence,
I demand that you amend your testimony. I will! I asked her, who did this to you? But she never replied.
Hold it!
So you tried to find out who the culprit was?
He who asks a question is a fool for a minute, but he who does not remains a fool forever. And having been labeled a criminal twice during my time in Great Britain, I was quick to make up my mind. Better to be a fool for a minute than remain a fool in prison forever.
However, you've indicated that the victim failed to respond. Is that correct?
I know why. I know why the Englishwoman said nothing. She was ignoring me because of my stoop and my mustache. Because I'm Japanese.
Oh dear. Sasaki-san really has developed a dislike for the English, it seems. Having read the report on his time in Great Britain, I can't say I'm surprised at his xenophobia.
But the Englishwoman didn't ignore you at all. Did she, Mr. Weatherman?
Well, yes, alright. She didn't respond in a manner of speaking, I suppose. She just lifted a trembling finger and pointed in the direction of the defendant.
Hold it!
Wait, hold up.
Damn. I was hoping she was facing the wall so she would be pointing at many Memo-san.
Miss Brett pointed a finger at the defendant. Sasaki-san, is that really true?
It's not easy here to not easy to stand here and say this, but when we first entered the beach hut, the Englishwoman was sprawled on the floor before us, and the student girl was standing on the far side of her. And when I asked who did this to you, the Englishwoman summoned her last ounce of strength to point a trembling finger at the back of the hut. Which was, it can't be denied, in the direction of the student girl who stands accused today.
Oh, what's the back of the hut? So it is still possible. Incriminating Memo-san. What a weird photograph, though.
No.
Sasaki-san, why on earth did you neglect to mention this in your original testimony?
But fiddlesticks, I say.
This is not a British court of law. You will respond in Japanese.
Yes, of course. The Englishwoman did point her finger towards the back of the hut, but I was trembling, and she was trembling, and everything was a blur. And thinking about it, I feel as though perhaps she was pointing at a slightly different direction. Actually, no, not slightly, in a very different direction to where the student girl was standing. To somewhere at the back of the hut, where nobody was standing at all.
You mean that your memory of events and the direction in which the victim was pointing are both unclear?
Yes, that's it. Unclear. I'm very, very unclear.
Objection!
Your Excellency, surely this proves the matter beyond all reasonable doubt. Yes, the woman may barely have been conscious, and yes, perhaps her finger wavered slightly. But there can be no doubt that this was an attempt by the victim to confirm the identity of her assailant. Why? Because, as the court can see, there was no one other than the accused in the direction the victim was pointing. It is now abundantly clear that no one besides the accused could possibly have committed this crime.
I am inclined to agree. And in the absence of any credible argument to the contrary, I believe we can now conclude this trial.
No! No!
Ha 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 ha! The headline's writing itself. Dashing lawyer's hopes dash. 92 point across the whole page. We'll do an extra edition.
This is a serious blow, Susato. Unless we're able to identify the true culprit and substantiate our claim with evidence, the judge will give his ruling, and the trial will be over. But that's impossible, Father. We don't even know how the crime was committed yet. Impossible though the task may seem, we have no choice. We must think back over everything we've learned thus far. Somewhere in all those details, I'm confident we'll find the clue we need. Ray gave us her account of how events unfolded in the defendant's antechamber before the trial resumed. She told us what happened at the precise moment Miss Brett was killed. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. And then, a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet, before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back. How could Miss Brett have been stabbed in the back in the beach hut that was empty, but for herself?
I have let too much air. I'm getting lightheaded.
How could Miss Brett have been stabbed in the back in a beach hut that was empty, but for herself and Brett and Ray? Somewhere, amid all the information we've gathered so far, there must be an answer to that question.
I take it then that the defense has nothing further to add.
So, the gallant Yoko student's luck finally runs out. I can't say I'm surprised.
In that case, I'm ready to deliver my final verdict on this matter.
This is a crucial turning point now. If I can't establish what really happened, it's over. Where was the real culprit hiding? And how did he or she stab the victim?
I know how.
Objection!
Your Excellency, I respectfully ask you to postpone your adjudication for the time being.
Who? To what end, counsel?
The defense would like to present the court with an alternative theory. An alternative theory that can explain who the victim was actually trying to implicate with her dying gesture.
Objection!
An alternative theory? Ha! None exists!
Objection!
There was someone else present at the scene who could have committed this crime. What? And the victim, Miss Brett, tried to reveal who it was to those around her at the time. By mustering all her remaining strength and pointing a trembling finger in the killer's direction. This is fictional! Fantasy!
Very well. As you seem so sure yourself, counsel, I am prepared to hear your alternative theory. So, young Ryutaro Naruhodo,
Yes, that's me, Your Excellency!
you will present your latest theory to the court by means of this plan. At the moment the victim was stabbed,
Where exactly are you proposing the culprit was concealed?
About here.
Take that!
Naho-san would never give up. And I'm a Naruhodo now. The true culprit who fatally stabbed Miss Brett. Concealed in this location here.
Are you mad, Counsel? You're suggesting the culprit was outside the hut?
What?
Order! Order! Order!
But, student lawyer, Naruhodo-san Esquire, that makes no sense at all.
You've just pointed out the exact spot where I was hiding to get my scoop snap. Wow. But I didn't see any suspicious individuals loitering about. I can swear to that.
Honestly, if the culprit had been outside the hut, there's no way that he or she could have stabbed the victim who was inside the hut. Actually, Prosecutor Ouchie, there is a way.
Ah.
And, in point of fact, the defense can provide evidence strongly suggesting that that is precisely the way Miss Brett was killed. You're bluffing! You're bluffing! You yokel!
The defense's assertion is clearly too fantastical for the court to comprehend. You need to give us more guidance, Counsel. What piece of evidence corroborates? How have I ever seen that word used? Corroborates your theory that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut.
Take that!
Wait, is that fun then?
Well, I've presented it now, but I haven't the first idea why I chose this piece of evidence.
Counsel, you're suggesting that this piece of evidence bears out your theory as to how the victim was stabbed?
It's something of a windfall, Your Excellency. I think the word you're looking for, Counsel, was downfall. If your theory is correct, and a knife was thrust into Miss Brett's back from outside the hut, there should be a visible trace somewhere. A trace? Yes, on the hut itself. Armed with that idea, I must look through the court record again.
Oh, shit, you actually see it right from there.
Take that!
The original photographic print of the crime scene?
Yes, it's clearly visible in this print. The trace of the fatal thrust that was delivered from outside the beach hut.
Objection!
Do you take us for fools? There's no hint of any such thing. I'm not sure that everyone present would agree. Someone, at least, appears to have noticed what it is that I'm referring to.
Counsel, once again, I must call on you to be explicit for the court. Where on this photograph is the trace of the stabbing, which you claim took place from outside the hut?
Take that!
Look closely just here. In the screen at the back of the hut, you can see the effects of a blade have been forced through the reeds. No! I can't see any such thing! It's true that the hut in question had 4 walls as you'd expect. However, by parting the reeds, a knife blade could easily penetrate them. This is extraordinary! Yes. The true culprit actually stabbed the victim from outside the beach hut. Oh. And of everyone present at the scene, there is only one person who could have done that. Only one person who was directly outside the hut when Miss Brett was killed. Right in Many Memo-san. It could only have been you.
And
No!
Objection!
This preposterous idea leaves me almost speechless. Just look at the photograph again. The victim lies almost exactly in the center of the beach hut, does she not?
I mean, her feet reached the stool, which makes sense. The beach house is not that large.
Are we to assume, as part of this farcical scenario, that the assailant was a knife thrower?
Objection!
No, of course not. We're not? If you recall the testimony of the defendant about the events just before the victim's death. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just stands on a stool in the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me, as if she knew she was untouchable. A stool! Have another look at the photograph. The slit in the re-screen will align perfectly with the back of a person who is sitting on that stool.
My word! So in fact, the victim was...
Killed whilst sitting on that stool by a stab wound to her back delivered through the read screen. Ah! Having been attacked, Miss Brett rose to her feet instinctively. But then, unable to speak, she collapsed on the floor in the middle of the hut. Before the defendant, Membami-san's appalled eyes. And that, Your Excellency, is the truth of what happened on the beach that day. By your silence, Many Memo-san, I take it that you don't deny the charge. This is absurd!
That will do. It would appear that we have a tactic admission of guilt from the witness. Accordingly, this court has successfully established the truth of this matter, which means that the defendant, Membami-san, is innocent of the crime.
Oh, thank goodness. I finally made him cave. I must say, I've never been more proud. No! This can't be! The Aoji clan can't! What of my growth? My growth of hope! It wasn't all an apparition! I can't accept this! I won't!
I see no reason for the continuance of this trial. I will therefore move to conclude proceedings by...
Hold it!
Ha ha ha! Well, this is all very convenient, is it? I will therefore move to conclude proceedings by delivering my final verdict and... Hold it! Well, this is all very convenient. This is how the highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? Suppressing well-meaning citizens' freedom to speak and branding them as criminals.
But we've established that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut, through the read screen walls. And no one but you was in a place at the time to have his hand on the hilt of the blade. It's a perfectly logical deduction.
So, your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? I mean, yes. Well, it seems a little irrelevant now.
Irrelevant?
Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed. It doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference if you think about it. After all, this trial's already shown the whole thing hinges on something else.
What are you talking about?
Brace yourself, little man. I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed. Because of the dirt you dug up.
What?
Enough obscurity. Explain yourself, witness.
What's to explain? I'm talking about the poison, of course.
The poison?
Let's ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? I understand that deadly poison you were developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct? And it's been shown that this poison was administered to the victim, Miss Brett. Is that right?
That is correct. The unusual constriction of the victim's pupils are a sure sign that this particular poison was used.
I see. So, presumably that means that the victim already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed?
Given that her pupils were clearly constricted, it seems highly likely, yes. If she had been dead already, the poison could not have circulated in her blood.
How refreshing to hear the argument of a metropolitan mind. Precisely! It matters not a jot who stabbed whom in whose back, and with whose blade. Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by the knife, but by the poison.
Objection!
But that can be explained by the poison being on the blade, as I already...
Objection!
Ha ha ha! Forgotten already, have we, yokel? I have, yes. During these very proceedings, the laboratory of the professor at your side assisted in proving that the blade of the weapon used to attack the victim had no trace of poison on it whatsoever. So, let me get this down. The facts, as skillfully established by the defense in this trial, turns out to be a headline-making red herring. Is that about right?
Well...
Order! 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 But where does this leave us? How, in that case, did the poison enter the victim's body?
There's an undoubtedly obvious answer to that. The lady most likely imbibed it. You mean she drank it? Have another look at the photograph here. As you can see, a bottle of carbonated water and a glass had been knocked onto the sandy floor of the beach hut. The poison could have been slipped into either. So somebody made Miss Brett drink it.
Well, what do you know? Look at those dashing eyes. This will make a great front page shot. Did those things have rolls of film? I thought there was like one large thing every time. Hey, why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. It would make no sense at all that I poisoned the woman, would it? I mean, that's been established already.
Hold it!
Established? What are you talking about?
Him? Don't tell me you've forgotten. That's a little hard to believe, given that the person who established it was you.
Me? What on earth does he mean?
Oh, let me catch those wide eyes. This is prime press fodder, this is.
It would seem that this trial is not destined to end yet, after all. I hereby call upon the witness to give further testimony.
That's great. That's great, it is. Let me get a shot of that magnificent beard, Your Excellency.
You claim it to be impossible that you were the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You explain to the court. You will explain to the court in your testimony the basis upon which you make such a claim.
I'm a journal, and I'm a man. I've never tried to run or hide from anything in my life. And I'm not about to start now, because that's many memoism.
For a brief moment, I thought I'd illuminate the truth, but it slipped right back into obscurity again. Just where is this trial going to take us?
Witness testimony. Complete innocence.
Oh yes, I stabbed the Englishwoman. And it's that very fact that proves I'm innocent. Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her? When I heard the student girl and the pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat. If the courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she did, someone else would have to see justice done.
Interesting pivot.
So, you admitted then? That everything happened as I described? That you're the one who stabbed Miss Brett in the back through the read screen?
You can blame this. You can blame this miserable country of ours. A country that bows to the pressure of foreign powers and lets murderers walk free. What kind of future can a country like that have? That's why I did it. I did what our pathetic leaders didn't have the guts to do. Slap bang in the middle of that charming lady's back, I plunged the blade of sweet justice right in there. As someone who spends his life seeing that truth is told, I feel really awful about giving false information in my testimony before. But, as it turns out, there was somebody else who had it in for the victim and got to her before me. That's right, you guessed it. That pretty little student girl. Now there's a woman after my own heart.
You're implicating Ray again.
She's the one who gave the poison to the Englishwoman and ended her pitiful existence. And suddenly, snap, this journal here is off the hook.
The argument is sound, certainly. If the witness had administered the poison himself, he need only have waited for it to take effect. Subsequently, stabbing the victim in the back would have been entirely nonsensical.
And therefore, this reporter had nothing to do with the poisoning. Yes, it's all quite logical. That's right, it is. Logical and true. I'm glad you've all seen the light. Justice at last.
This is unbelievable. And after I'd made so much progress to proving his guilt, is he going to get away with it now? Think of Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san. They never stopped looking for a way forward until the judge's final gavel.
Very well then, counsel. Proceed with what I assume to be your final cross-examination in this trial.
Yes, yes, Your Excellency.
Complete innocence.
Oh yes, I stabbed the Englishwoman, and that's the very fact that proves I'm innocent.
Hold it!
So, you do admit that you had murderous intentions towards Miss Brett then?
Ah! The woman's very existence offended my sense of justice.
Your sense of... He's claiming some sort of righteous indignation?
She was pure evil, a cold-blooded killer who committed murder right here on our empire soil. But did our good-for-nothing government do anything? Not a chance. So I had to step in. Fly the flag of justice. Put things right for the people. Yes, it was my civic duty. That's what drove me to do it.
So, in summary, murderous intentions then?
Whatever you want to call it. The point is this. That Englishwoman was a blight. So I had to do what was right for society. Yet the real wrong was done by the student girl in the dock. A crime for which she must pay. Obviously, because the poisoning was nothing to do with me at all. Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her?
Hold it!
So you still maintain that you didn't give the poison to the victim?
Obviously, that'd be like putting a belt on your trousers when you were already wearing braces like these. The accused administered the poison, following which this witness stabbed the victim. An unforgivable act, certainly, but not one of murder. That crime rests on the accused's shoulders. That's how the law works, you see, yokel. Who knows? You may even learn something here today.
Two consecutive attempts on her life in the space of minutes. Quite a day for the victim.
Do something that evil, and you've got it coming. That's how the law works. The law of reckoning.
That's not the kind of law this court upholds.
You reiterate why you were compelled to stab the victim, then, witness?
When I heard the student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat.
Hold it!
What exactly were they arguing about?
About what happened in that restaurant 9 months ago. Well, that's what. The student girl was laying into the Englishwoman for killing her beloved mentor, Dr. Wilson.
Yes, Dr. John H. Wilson, a professor of medicine, invited here from England by Professor Mikutoba, no less.
Right, but the Englishwoman just jeered. Her case was to be heard by the British Consular Court in Shanghai. However, there's little doubt that she would simply have been acquitted and sent back to her homeland as a free woman. It was eating that student girl up inside. You could see it. I really felt for her.
Hold it! I can't stand here and listen to this tripe. Ray!
Young girl, you stand accused here. You can't just blurt out whenever you feel like it. No, you can't. Sorry, but I'm in the middle of some very important testimony here. just keep quiet and listen.
But this awful man is making all this up. Susanna, please, you have to make them listen.
Who? What? Oh. Who? Return to the dock at once, Membami-san. We are in the middle of a cross-examination.
Hold it!
Your Excellency, please, I implore you. That journalist is clearly not a trustworthy witness. Exactly. He's a filthy, rotten, black-hearted, bigoted, dirty, great peeping Tom.
Whoa! Take it easy there.
Please, I really think the court should hear what the defendant has to say.
Your Excellency, I see no need whatsoever to entertain the accused's remarks.
I will grant the request of the defense.
But, Your Excellency!
This is likely to be the final cross-examination of these proceedings. As such, I believe it would be ill-advised to stifle the defendant's obvious concerns. So, whilst recognizing that this contravenes regular protocol, I hereby call upon the defendant to speak.
Oh. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. It has nothing to do with Dr. Wilson. We were discussing the stolen poison.
Hold it!
I just double checking that. Okay, I was looking at my preview screen to see if the screen share is still happening. Cause like, kind of forgot to do that multiple times. I think it stopped.
The stolen poison that killed the victim, you mean? I suspected her of being the one who's wanted to steal it. I mean, just think about how she killed Dr. Wilson. That's true. Additionally, Miss Brett certainly had knowledge of the new poison.
But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government.
Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult.
That's true. I pestered Professor Mikotoba until he agreed to show me the poison when I visited his laboratory. But as I left, I was searched from top to tail.
Miss Brett rather bluntly revealed the existence of the toxin we'd been developing, you see. And since Soseki-san expressed such an interest in it, I felt unable to refuse. Honestly, I gave nothing away, other than the fact that it was an extremely potent substance.
I'm very ashamed of myself. It's just that I've had a singularly terrible experience with a deadly poison. I want to look my own enemy in the eye. Surely you can understand that.
To find out if my suspicions were true, I confronted Miss Brett about the poison. I told her that if there were to be an incident involving it somehow, it wouldn't just be the university. The military would be dragged into it. The whole government even. It would be a complete disaster.
And how did Miss Brett respond to your concerns?
She just curled those beautiful lips of hers and said she didn't know the first thing about it. In English, actually. Ah, yes. Many Memo-san, one small question, if you don't mind.
I do mind. Can't you see I'm busy?
Clearly you were outside the beach hut listening in whilst the defendant and Miss Brett were conversing. Presumably then, it was you who wrote this article about what you'd heard? Exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. The story was published in this morning's edition of Shoyu News. The details are too accurate for
for it to have been written by anyone else.
Sorry, don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, look at this. The entire article is almost slightly misread, word for word.
Arg!
Well, many Memo-san.
As a journal, and as a citizen of a free country, I don't have to reveal my sources. That's the founding principle of many memoism.
Father's clearly right about this. That reporter did write that article, and he based it on what he overheard from outside the hut.
The users of the poison article have been updated to court record. The reporter, Mini Memo-san, based it on information he gleaned by eavesdropping.
So that's what it was all about. You were trying to cover up the fact that you were listening in. That's why you came up with that sickening story about me arguing with her.
Shut up! My stories never stink. Look, whatever you say, little girl, it doesn't alter the facts. Your Excellency, there's something I want to say, and I want it to go on record.
Very well then. Very well. You may amend your former testimony.
The point is, if you'd poison someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well.
Hold it!
Perhaps you doubt the efficacy of the poison and sought to make sure your victim would die.
That's horse dung.
What?
That would be like pouring pepper on your Chinese ramen before you'd even taste it. Completely reckless. Although, it might surprise you to learn that I'm a bit of a impetuous pepper pourer as it happens.
Once the victim had taken the poison, she would have been only minutes away from death. And yet, this man proceeded to stab her in the back as well. There has to have been a good reason for that. If it was the reporter who gave the poison to Miss Brett, then clearly, he must have done it prior to Ray entering the hut. Yes, that's undeniable. But, between him leaving the hut and the victim being stabbed, there was only one very crucial change in the situation. Sorry? What change? The reporter overheard the conversation between Ray and the Englishwoman. Ah! Yes, that's it. That's when Mei Mama-san first found out the exact nature of the poison he used. That could be the key here.
I took myself out.
If the victim had unwittingly taken the poison already, the reporter would have had no reason to stab him. On the face of it, that logic sounds entirely reasonable. But there's no question that this man was responsible for Miss Brett's murder. If we could think of a possible explanation as to why he might have stabbed her even after the poisoning, I feel sure that everything would drop into place. That's what we should be looking for. Yes, I agree. In order to do that, I must try to glean more information.
So why does testimonies change? I don't know which one though.
Yeah, I can't see anything yet. It's because of the contraction of the pupils. It made it too obvious that she was poisoned. But he stabbed it as a cover-up. So do I use that then?
Objection!
Ooh, got right. Yes. I need to have a quick snack. My stomach's just feeling weirdly empty. Nom. I'm really surprised, like, the crunching of my snack doesn't, like, get caught in the mic. Because it hears me, like, just, like, scraping the container where it's, like, all riled around.
Well, I can think of one reason.
What? What?
But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you overheard outside the hut?
Of course he did. There can be no question of that. After all, when we were all in the laboratory together, all we were told is that it was a terrible toxin.
And there's one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Nabali-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison into Miss Brett's drink.
Objection!
Where are you going with this, counsel? Many Memo-san has made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found opportunity, this man would have seen it.
Ag!
Which means that Miss Brett couldn't have imbibed the poison whilst the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Memo-san entered the hut.
Yes, very articulately put.
When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison. At which point, Memo-san overheard some worrying information.
Worrying information? What worrying information?
The information which he subsequently included in his newspaper article, namely, that the poison was being developed in strict secrecy, and that it couldn't be readily obtained. Absolutely. In fact, that's quite an understatement. The only possible place it could have come from is my lab. And furthermore, anyone afflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs of death. An extreme constriction of the pupils, yes, is quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it would be clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of this particular poison, which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people.
Oh!
Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we've been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed. And Memo-san being no exception. Therefore, we can conclude that whoever administered this unique poison to the victim was a layperson, unaware of its telltale properties. In other words, someone like you, right in Memo-san?
Yeah!
It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day. And it was you who administered it to the unwitting victim. And you quickly realized that was a terrible mistake. Because the poison caused such unusual symptoms and was so traceable. As you listened in from the far side of the beach hut's thin walls, you learned of these facts. But you'd already given the victim the poison at that point. It was too late. So you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. A plan that involved stabbing the victim in the back with a reed scream.
Objection!
But what good could that possibly do?
Isn't it obvious, Counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect. Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupil constriction, but he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he? Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of the new secret poison's use, no one would have ever suspected.
This is extraordinary!
Yes, the effects of the poison meant it would be too easily identified, so the killer had to mask its use, which he attempted to do by plunging a knife into the middle of the victim's back.
Order! 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 The argument presented is sound. The court is satisfied that warrants consideration. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward?
Well, there are a number of... yes! I counter completely.
Objection!
The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that in much the same way as he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he is clearly clinging to lost hope. Lost hope!
Hold it! Ah! You pathetic, useless fallen samurai!
Fallen? Who are you calling fallen? My burgeoning growth is on the rise.
I don't need a counter-argument.
What? What are you talking about?
It should be blatantly obvious. I stole the poison, you say? Gave it to the victim, you say? Stabbed her, you say? Lots of fine theories. But I don't need a counter-argument, because you don't have an argument yourself. Where's your evidence? Yes, you make it all sound so plausible, don't you? But without evidence, it means nothing. Whereas I base my news on facts.
Fox? What do you mean? Explain yourself.
I mean, what the professor said earlier in this trial. It's all here, in my many memos, every word, every slip of the tongue, all noted. And that's what the Show You News is famous for. It's the power of the printed word.
But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government.
Indeed, all visitors in the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult.
How's that then? Blown the story wide open? See, I write in mini memo. A mere reporter from the Show You News couldn't possibly have stolen that poison from the professor's laboratory.
But there can't be any question.
I feel like it's gonna end like in half an hour. I want to end the stream, but I really can't.
But there can't be any question of it. He must have stolen the poison that day. He stole it and used it to kill. But if that's the case, as you've identified, the poison itself is the definitive evidence we need. Because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is the true culprit here.
What's your point? You annoyingly handsome country bumpkin.
My point is this. There's one way that you, Mini Momo-san, could have stolen the poison that day.
I have heard enough verbal conjecture now. Thank you. What the court must be shown is evidence. What proof do you have that this witness stole the poison on the day in question? The fountain pen.
Take that!
The proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen.
Arg! A fountain pen? How could that possibly be relevant?
These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago.
Bah! I swear by a weasel's hair calligraphy brush and nothing else. These newfangled pens are merely a fad.
Okay, sure. Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, I love my fountain pen. Suck up some kind of sumptuous ink.
I have no idea how to pronounce that. I don't know what the squiggly line of the C pronunciation is.
And one's work is awash with words in the blink of an eye.
That's right. The fountain pens have a small reservoir in the barrel, onto which ink is sucked up through the nib of the pen in order to write with later.
What does all this talking of sucking up ink have? Ah!
And just as it's possible to suck ink up into the reservoir, it's also possible to eject it through the nib again, of course.
My word! Can this really be?
Well, many Memo-san, when you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used your fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? By siphoning the poison up through the nib and into the pen's reservoir.
Gah!
Objection!
More absurdity! That never happened!
True, we've heard that there were procedures in place to prevent theft like this from the laboratory. But would anyone have thought to look inside a fountain pen of all places? No, I'm a little ashamed to say that for fear of offending our guests, such a detailed search would not have been conducted.
Well, it is quite startling, I must say.
I remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by many Memo-san. So the crucial question is, when exactly was the pen dropped?
Are you suggesting?
The natural conclusion is that in your haste to act whilst the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pen after you emptied the poison from it into her glass.
Objection!
There could be any number of alternative explanations. For example, the witness could have been using his pen to write down details of his conversation with the victim. And when shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pen fell from his quivering hand.
Objection!
No, that can't be. If it was, how do you explain why the pen was devoid of ink?
What?
As you can see for yourself, if you examine the evidence, there would appear to be no ink present in the reservoir. What newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with nothing in his pen? No. The pen was dropped after the poison that filled his glass reservoir had been emptied into the victim's glass.
Witness, what do you have to say in your defense?
Oh, ha ha ha! So, this is how our modern justice system works, is it? So, what if the ink in my pen runs dry? So, what if my pencil snaps? I can always claw my way back into the game. I have plenty in reserve. Egg! Arr! You claim I sucked the poison up into my pen. That's wild speculation, nothing more. If you thought you could bring down a fine, upstanding citizen with a trick like that, think again.
It looks as though it's going to take one final decisive blow to finish this man.
As I see it, the situation is now very simple. It rests upon whether or not the witness did indeed steal the poison on the day in question. And therefore, it all depends on whether or not the defense can prove that he did with the evidence.
Ha! No such evidence could possibly exist.
Objection!
Many Memo-san, this is how our modern justice system works.
What?
In the courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do well to remember. Because we are well past the point of speculation in this state. At this stage, I assure you.
Very well then. I call upon the defense to present the aforementioned evidence.
This is it then. This will be the final piece in the puzzle. The defense can prove, by means of this item, that it was the witness's pen that was used to steal the poison.
The Regent.
Take that!
Counsel, what is that bottle?
This ball contains the unique chemical reagent that can identify the poison in question. Ah! Yes, that poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids developed by my colleagues and I. It would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other method. Or, from another perspective, simply with this chemical reagent, anybody at all could check for traces of the poison.
A reagent? What? A reagent?
One drop of the contents of this bottle on the tip of your fountain pen, Memo-san, is all it would take to solve this case beyond all reasonable doubt.
No, you can't. I won't.
Your crimes are bad enough, but at least know when to admit defeat. Your Excellency, the defense requests permission to carry out the tests on the fountain pen at once.
This isn't my fault. The Empire drove me this. By trying to hold the height up. I took a bar to form my pen. Tried to farm literally in the name of justice. And righteousness. Many
Sal, with me. I'm there. Hiya!
Neat.
Did I do it right? That was a Susao takedown, wasn't it?
Okay, now I can read what rant was. This isn't my fault. The Empire drove me to this, trying to hold its head high as a civilized nation, but bowing its head to every foreign power within, with every foreign power's whim. I took up arms in the form of the mighty pen. I fought tirelessly on the battlefield of news, all in the name of justice and righteousness. Yes, many memoism is the paragon of justice. Many memo.
Not quite. That's with a Ryutaro takedown. The instant the first drop of the reagent touched the nib of the fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present.
When I saw it there in the lab, the poison, the devil got hold of me, and I decided to do it on a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully.
And then you waited for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? Into your fountain pen.
Excuse me. Yes, that's right.
Ask me one thing, Memo-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose?
Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of and expose it in an article. I mean, it was a secret project after all. Too juicy for a journal like me to pass up.
Then why did the Englishwoman end up dead?
I went into that hut, intending to quiz her on her situation. That's all. As a reporter. A known killer, enjoying full freedom. Evading justice by leaving the country. I told her what I thought about it. And she just laughed in my face.
Oh, what's this? A Far Eastern caveman purporting to practice journalism? Really, you must learn the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian.
What? What did you call me?
This country, with its pretensions to a justice system, to a free press, it's really very depressing. You see, our superior ways in the West, yet you lack the mental capacity to emulate them. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl back into the cave you came from.
And that's when I remembered about the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at the time.
What a terrible tale.
In my head, I knew I should just get out there as quickly as possible, but I couldn't. I couldn't let her get away with what she'd done, when she clearly had no remorse at all. I suppose it was my journal spirit getting all fired up.
I'd like to ask you something.
Yes.
You often talked about justice. But surely, as a journalist, you could have used other means to deliver the justice you sought.
There's no justice in the press.
Sorry?
After that trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging to find out what happened in that courtroom. And finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up. That's what it was.
A cover-up? What do you mean?
I would remind you of your position, witness. Be careful what you say.
Oh, come on. Doesn't it strike you as strange? We're suddenly not allowed to convict a foreign national. Consular jurisdiction should never have come into it. Yet that puffed up Englishwoman was going to sail away into the sunset a free woman. The only possible explanation is that, behind the scenes, some deal had gone down between Britain and Japan.
What sort of deal?
I had done my research, dug up all the dirt. It was all ready to be published. But you know what happened? The editor just tore the article up.
He came under pressure from the government, you mean?
If our government is going to let criminals walk free, if they're going to crush the free press, then what choice do I have but to see that justice is done myself?
Let's not forget, Memo-san, that you committed murder yourself, and you tried to lay the blame at the defendant's door. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Giselle Brett.
What?
The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all.
I suppose.
It would appear that we have reached a conclusion in this trial at last. Counsel of Defense, Ryotaro Naruhodo.
Yes, Sorry, Yossi. Just musing in a manly way here. Very manly. Just my balls.
It's almost unbelievable that this is your first experience of the Supreme Court. It was an excellent performance. In truth, it very much reminded me of your cousin's exploits.
Ryonosuke, you mean?
The way he handled the trial 9 months ago, and the way you handled this one. It gives me hope that we are generally entering a new era of justice in this land.
That's very flattering, Your Excellency.
Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of our justice system will be forged by you and your contemporaries.
Thank you.
So, Prosecution Ouchie, do you have any final thoughts?
Oh dear.
Prosecutor Ouchie? Takisuchi of the Ouchie clan have been bested by a callow youth. Not once now, but twice. If there was any shred of my former self left, it has withered and died here today.
Gosh, your journey to cultural enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it?
Silence! Rather than living on in shame, I will end it all now with this blade. For that is the true path of Ouchieism.
Ouchieism? One hopes that that's the only way in which he'll be modeling himself after the witness.
Sprig of my top knot, the time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Takisuchi.
Now, in regard to the defendant, Ray Mambami-san,
Yes, Your Excellency?
I have reached my final verdict. I hereby find you not guilty. Court is adjourned.
Finally done. 13th August, 2:38 p.m. Supreme Court of Judicature. Defendant's Antechamber. 3.
It's over. My heart is still pounding in my chest, though. It's all I can do just to stay standing. Lawyers have such great responsibility, such a great burden to bear, don't they, Naruhodo-san?
Susato! Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there.
Ray and Father.
Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you've... Oh no, I think I'm going to cry.
It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end too.
The only reason I'm still here is because of you.
Oh no, I can't take all the credit. I had the courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Ray. So I would have to say that the congratulations belongs to you.
Susato, don't be so standoffish.
Sorry?
We're friends, equals, and the trial's over. There's no more this formal, super humiliating nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger, to throw caution to the wind.
Caution to the... what?
I'm the great defense lord Ryotaro Naruhodo, and I'm taking you out to a milk bar tomorrow. Or something.
Right, I see. I'll, think about it, Ray.
At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of that horrid man, and it felt so good. Yes, it was satisfying. It really was. Isn't there anybody else we could throw together? I hope you're not looking at me, Ray. Oh my goodness! No, of course not. Of course not. Ah, there it is at last. Ray's lovely smile. You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you. Defense Attorney Ryotaro Naruhodo. Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to Ryotaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Susato Mikotoba for now. So, I'll never see him again then. What a terrible shame.
What? Oh dear.
Whoa, what is happening?
Sasaki-san and Inspector Hosonaga. I do hope you've been keeping well. Is that really you? Yes, I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope. But it's me, Susato Mikotoba.
I don't. Women in the courtroom? Unbelievable. This is a sham.
So dashing, so divine.
No. Double dashing, yes, and definitely divine. Just look at you. I had no idea. This is Sao-san, Esquires, that you were locum student Naruhodo-san's Esquire cousin. Astounding, Ace Attorney.
Poor Sasaki-san, so confused. I still remember the first time I ever met him. He was in a prison cell in London. What an extraordinary conundrum it was that the unwilling student from Japan himself found himself in Broden. But after Naruhodo-san's skillful defense at the Old Bailey, Sasaki-san was free to return to Japan. And now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author. I'm astounded. That's a truly impressive disguise. Even I had no idea. And I'm the chief inspector at the police bureau. Who came up with Mr. Turo, no less. Not sure you should be admitting to that, Inspector. Amazing. You're a woman of many faces, I see. Just two, really. And this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope. Oh, I'm not a patch on you, though, Inspector. Well, I'm a professional, of course. I do worry about Inspector Hosonaga sometimes. I really do. 9 months ago, when he appeared here at the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover, disguised as the head waiter of a restaurant. And then on the steamship to Great Britain, of course, disguised as a sailor to keep us safe on the journey. Though, that didn't help you, did it? Kazuma-sama. From my perspective, I have to admit I have mixed feelings about this. I mean, now the truth has been lost forever.
What do you mean?
I'm talking about the murder that the Englishwoman committed at the end of last year.
Oh yes, it was an English doctor she killed, as I understand it.
Dr. John H. Wilson, yes. The man I invited to Japan personally. The mystery is, why did she kill him? And now the culprit herself is dead. We'll probably never know the answer. On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter with Mr. Sherlock Holmes. The great detective, I mean. Yes, I remember Mr. Holmes well, of course.
Ah, my arch nemesis. How lightly you utter his name.
Well, according to the stories published about him in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes, a best friend. And that man was an exceptional doctor of medicine, by the name of John H. Wilson. What? Dr. Wilson? I just can't believe that is a coincidence. I think that the English doctor of medicine, killed here in Japan 9 months ago, must have been the friend and partner of Mr. Holmes. And if that's really true, then the poor girl won't ever see her beloved father again. As you know, I traveled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time you were born. Yes, grandmother told me about it. On returning to Japan, I took my professorship at the Imperial Yume University, but I also serve another role, as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs. Yes, I was aware of that as well. In that case, I'm sure you understand, but there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you. Can you just tell me one thing? Why did you send me back to Japan? It's been 2 months now since I've returned. Since I left England, it was because an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said you'd collapsed with a high fever, and you were growing weaker by the day. What? Where did that news come from? That's what I'd like to know. Because after that long sea voyage, I found you in fine health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain that you perceived might inconvenience me in some way? Or harm me? That's really the only explanation I can think of. Dear me, do you reserve your most cutting glares for your father, Susanoo? I'm sorry, my dear. I simply can't.
Let me go.
Memo-san. So, one throw was enough for you.
I've got one last thing to say before they take me away, Professor.
Me?
I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on in that visiting student's fate.
Visiting student? Sale Brett's you mean?
No, not her. The student of law who left for Great Britain 8 months ago.
What? Student of law? He must mean Kazuma-sama. What are you talking about? What does any of this have to do with Kazuma-sama?
Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England. They died on that steamship. And that he'll never... Arg! Whoa, Judge. Well, I didn't expect to find him in here. What were you officers playing at? Terribly sorry, Your Excellency. I was coming to tell you that the rickshaws have arrived, Nugent. And it's a good job that I came by. It's a good job I came by.
Yes, thank you for dealing with him. And I'll be there shortly. Oh, Your Excellency.
The draw's over. I'm not Your Excellency anymore.
merely your father's friend, Seishiro Jigoku. And may I say that since I saw you last, you seem to have taken on a more dashing appearance. Susato.
Did you know all along? From the start of the trial?
Ha ha ha! My judge sees everything, Susato.
I couldn't let you take the risk. If Sashiro here hadn't known and then he'd recognize you, So I had a word in his ear beforehand, as an old friend. So, Sashiro, shall we?
Yes! Having ruled on the case, we now have various diplomatic issues to address.
Before you go, Father. Sorry, my dear. We shall have to return. We shall have to return to our earlier conversation at a later date. But well done again, both of you. You did admirably. Oh, thank you very much.
What do you think of my sexual sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that. Ah, ha 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 ha.
Whatever could Father be hiding from me? About Giselle Brett, about Dr. Wilson, and now it seems, or according to the reporter, about Kazuma-sama. I'm going to have to bring this up with Father sometime, when nobody else is around.
Judicial Assistant Mikotoba-san, Esquires, could I have a word?
Oh, yes, of course, Suzuki-san. What is it?
I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting again like this now. You see, there's something I need to tell you.
Oh?
I believe it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back from England.
This I have to hear.
Please,
Suzuki-san. Tell me at once.
I will. As you know, my time in England was terrible. Cursed, I have no doubt. Such awful things out in the world in. Thank goodness, low comes to it, Naruhodo-san Esquire stepped in. After he secured my freedom, I couldn't wait to get on the ship back here to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experiences to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That crap, I don't think I turned off my wipers. Next I knew, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Mikotoba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report.
My father?
He seemed to be especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was the very next day that he sent a telegram to you asking you to return to Japan.
What was then the particular part my father was interested in?
I don't really know exactly. But do you remember them? Those two terrible cases I was caught up in?
Of course. I can never forget.
Your father seems to concern himself mainly with the second case.
The second one? You mean the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public?
Okay, I'm not going crazy here. We only did one case of him, right? So there was a secret second case? Wow, what a twist.
Which is why the only case involving you that any member of the public is aware of is the first.
That's what threw me off when he said that there are two terrible incidents that's involved in. And one involved poison.
Well, I don't care. I don't have to listen to what that dastardly detective says. Anyway, The point is, it seems that case somehow holds the key to all these curious unanswered questions. The horrific, hideous, heinous case. The case of the haunted lodgings.
That case somehow caused my father to summon me urgently back to Japan. I thought that whole business was over, but it seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only the start. Perhaps the story is not yet told.
So, the mystery of that English woman's death is solved, thank goodness. And having stood in the Supreme Court now, I think I can comprehend a little better. How you must be feeling as you fight for people's freedom in a foreign land, Naruhodo-san. But actually, I'm writing to you today because of another matter. I met Soseki-san and we talked about that second case he was involved in. Father has said nothing to me, but I feel certain of it. That case holds the key to some great unsolved mystery. My notes on the case should still be in the office, tucked away at the back of the shelves on the left. Perhaps you might like to look over them again. Today, for the first time this year, it feels as though summer has arrived. The sky is a brilliant blue. It makes me long to see you again. Yours, Susato.
And that is game. Hell yeah. Fine, done. Case 1. Next case,
The Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro.
oh man. Until then, thank you everyone who joined me today, and I will see you all next time. Wow, it took 10 extra minutes than I thought. Bye.